I want to just start off on a less happy note, which is we're just informed that there was a credible bomb threat at Sandy Hook Elementary School. And on this, what is the 6th anniversary of the massacre there. And so the school has been evacuated, and police are there investigating as best they can. It's a day that's going to live with us for a long time here in Connecticut. On a happier note, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the organization of state government, something that Ryan and I have been thinking a lot about over the last month. And it involves a new role in our government. That's the role of Chief Operating Officer. And it's going to be my great joy to be able to introduce Paul Mounds as the first Chief Operating Officer for the state of Connecticut. And this decision comes after a lot of thought. Ryan and I have had a chance to talk to many of the commissioners, deputies, and those that deal with our different departments across the state and commissions, where there's so much overlap. I've been talking to my fellow governors over the last few weeks as well, and many of them have thought about the idea of a chief operating officer, just because there's a lot of overlap between our different departments, and there's also a lack of communication, collaboration, and coordination. And I think we as a state can do much better if they have a joint reporting role that goes through Paul and Ryan to me, so that on a regular basis we can make sure that there's not a failure to communicate, to quote Cool Hand Luke. We've heard this a lot from constituents who are dealing with our departments. Right now, housing can be spread across DECD and the housing, or if you're a new business that's thinking about coming to Connecticut, you got DECD, but job training, you're going someplace else, transportation, zoning. So there are a lot of ways that we think a chief operating officer would make sure that all these departments are working together collaboratively, and it's a one-stop solution for people who want a response from their government. I've thought a little bit going beyond this about the role of a CIO, an elevated role for Chief Information Officer, something we see in businesses across the country. So that not only do we have an operating way that these departments can work together through human capital, but also through technology, our departments can communicate and work together better. Ryan's been thinking, you may talk to him a bit about how we have a forward-facing user interface on the Connecticut site, where if you're somebody, let's say, wants to start a business and find out about Connecticut, they're electronically through an app. We're looking at some other states who are doing this right now. They put together DECD with workforce development and housing and find a way electronically that we bring these departments together. And this is the type of initiative that Paul is going to be taking for us as Chief Operating Officer. He knows the departments well. You know his background when he was doing policy for Governor Malloy. He got to know these departments well. So I think he, working with Ryan, we're going to do everything we can to make this a better experience for our taxpayers and constituents. Hopefully, over time, hold down the price of government as well and make it a more user-friendly 21st century digital government. And that's where we're trying to go. With that, let me just ask Ryan maybe to add a few things.
Thank you, Governor-elect. As the Governor-elect described, we've really utilized this time during the transition to really step back and rethink the organizational design for state government. Our approach has been bottoms-up and tops-down. From a bottoms-up perspective, the Governor-elect and I have spent a lot of time over the last few weeks, and we will continue to do so, meeting with each agencies, talking with the commissioners, really walking the walk to understand a day in their lives, understand how it's working, how can it be improved, what can we do to be a better partner. This role is welcomed from the current commissioners that we've spoken to, for all the reasons that the governor-elect said. From a tops-down perspective, what we've done is really looked at this from the taxpayer's shoes, and how do we reverse engineer these processes, these agencies, to ensure that the taxpayers have a better user experience when they're looking to do business with the state of Connecticut. Whether or not you're a barber shop looking to open up in the state of Connecticut, as the governor-elect said, what is that front door? What is that experience? How will you be led through and guided to make sure that you are able to achieve what you're intended to do and be a more successful, entrepreneurial, inclusive state? The notion of the COO, one of the things we're going to be introducing with each agency is the notion of operational metrics. And so Paul will be working with each of the agencies, and what we want to do and achieve is to have an opportunity for each agency to partner with the Office of the Governor, understand where their agency is on the field as it relates to our strategic vision, because it's going to be our collaborative strategic vision. And what we're going to be able to do is stand up the mechanism by way in which the agencies on a regular cadence can come in and understand where are they on track, off track, relative to what they need to achieve, and how we can be helpful. First and foremost, how can we be helpful? And so that's what we're looking to stand up, and this is going to be an iterative process. This is going to be the first step in a multi-step process, but it's something we're very excited to do. I think Paul's a tremendous pick for this, for the reasons that the governor said. Tremendous knowledge of this building, of the agencies. I think it's going to be a welcome addition. So I'm proud to announce Paul joining the team, and it's going to be exciting. Paul?
First of all, I want to thank the governor-elect, Lieutenant Governor-elect, and Ryan for picking me and having the confidence in me to do this position and being the first to do this position. I'm truly honored to join this administration. I look forward to working with the agency commissioners and their teams to bring our government into the 21st century. I'm a son and nephew of state employees. I very much understand the commitment of our agencies and the workforce to bringing about the change in as well as bringing about the success that they're looking to provide to the constituents of all constituents of Connecticut. I have been here before. I started in this building as an intern. I previously served in in this current governor's office as legislative and policy director. I've done similar roles as this job will entail, but it has not been as focused as this role in terms of the execution. We will be using metrics and data to truly measure success. We will better support Connecticut businesses and all of our Connecticut residents. I applaud the mindset of the governor-elect and Ryan in creating this role of Chief Operating Officer. It has become increasingly necessary as the needs of our state grow larger and more complex. For Connecticut to remain a great place to live, work, and raise a family, we all need our agencies and departments to work together. I am ready to take on this challenge, dive into the work of making our government more responsive and helpful for all citizens of Connecticut. Let's get to work. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Yes. I don't want to age anyone. 3785, 33 years old, currently reside in Glastonbury, Connecticut, born in Hartford, Vine Street in Hartford to be exact, raised in East Hartford, Connecticut. We're still determining that.
Who will Mr. Miles report to?
Ryan.
Who will report to Ryan?
The synergy that you were talking about, or connectivity with EDCD and what have you, is that something that can be done in-house, or is that something that might be outsourced to something like Ecosystem? Figuring out how to get all this stuff together.
Well, DECD working together with all the other groups that are necessary to attract and keep businesses here, that's an operating role, first and foremost.
That's they have the capacity to put all of these different agencies together on the state website so they have a connectivity. Isn't that what you were talking about a couple of months ago?
Well, I was. I mean, in the role of Chief Information Officer, raising that role, making that cabinet level or part of the governor's office, working with Paul so that we have an electronic version of what he's doing through human capital, absolutely. You know, we'd be working with those who help set up websites and establish that. We've already having a good conversation with some folks who do that for DMV, which got a lot of conversation during the campaign season.
So are you creating not only the chief operating officer position, but also the chief information officer position that you haven't filled it yet? Or is
We're looking into that. That's something we're looking into. Let me talk to Paul and Ryan about that as we get going. But first, the main thing is we want to have central operating authorities so that these departments work together better. And we've got them now reporting up through Paul and then Ryan. So I think we're going to have them working collaboratively.
Is this essentially, over the short term, a project that he's going to need to develop this kind of structure, and then will be chief operating officer, and hopefully it will all work? So, I mean, that
No, it's not a short-term project. This is a permanent role. I'd like to see this a
I
permanent.
mean the role, but I mean the idea of short term at least, there's a lot of change that needs to happen. And so it's not like he has this clearly defined line of responsibility right now because you're trying to change things, you're trying to build relationships. So I'm just trying to get a sense of, so the first part of his job, however long it takes, is to help develop this new structure, and then with Ryan and you run it.
I think that's right. Right now, the commissioners are going to have line operating right up to Paul and then Ryan. And how they begin to continue to collaborate. You know, Dan had occasional, you know, cabinet meetings. We would do that in a more formal, regular way so we can hold people accountable in terms of those metrics. But Ryan, you want to add to that?
Well, I would say, you know, the easy thing to do is just to say, we'll sit back in a room and design this. The right thing to do, in our opinion, is to sit down with each of the agencies. What are the key measures that you want to be measured by? How are you going to know that you're on track? What's the frequency by way in which that should be measured? So collaboratively with each of the agencies, we'll be sitting down and working through that. And so step one is going to be more in the collaborative, creative sphere of getting to ensure that we are picking the right measures, putting that in the right order, setting up the right cadence. And so that's how we're going to approach this. So the initial.
How do you, because I'm going to get this call, email, question from viewers. How do you go about creating a new position in the executive branch? You only got so much money to pay people. Is it you're eliminating something else, or you're consolidating some other jobs?
Take it.
Thought about that? Is that your
Yeah.
problem?
It's I would say this, it's my opportunity. And the way that I would say that is it is a new role, but it is not a new, is not adding to the office of the governor in a budgetary sense. We are staying within the current envelope that we have right now, but anchored back to what I said at the beginning, which is this is the opportunity for us to step back, redesign. And so within that confines, working to create this role so that it fits within the current structure, but is going to be new and unique, but it won't be additive.
Right. To that end, can you imagine fewer people directly reporting to you and the governor than maybe has been before, as a way to reduce the amount of noise, if you will, that comes through the executive branch on a daily basis?
So yes, I think there's an opportunity for us to be more efficient. So I think the chief of staff has three primary responsibilities, traditionally: operational, budgetary, and strategic. And with strategic is where policy would live. I think I'm best serving the governor-elect as a strategic thought partner. And so Paul taking the mantle of operationalizing the strategic initiatives that we're going to be driving. And so more of myself of managing the process by way in which the agencies will be overseen, so I can spend more time with the governor on some of the bigger issues.
Did you ever rule out eliminating any sort of agency? I mean, Governor Lloyd took it from 81 to 57. I mean, is there a possibility that agencies will disappear?
No, I would say at this point right now we are in the process of looking down at the overarching holistic design, and what we'll come up with will be one that I think is more efficient, but at this point in time it'd be premature to say whether or not there'd be more or less.
Clearly, Paul is going to be reporting to Ryan. Tell us what the difference is. If I'm hearing you correctly, Paul's going to have a very large portfolio here. Tell me what the difference is between if you were co-chiefs of staff or if Paul was really a deputy chief of staff. What is the difference that you're explaining?
Yeah, so I'd say, as the governor-elect said, this is going to be the operational arm of the Office of the Governor, taking the strategic initiatives that we have, ensuring that they're implemented in the agencies operationally, and then being that good partner with the agencies, and so that while all roads will lead through Paul, ultimately the governor is in charge, and through me, we'll make sure that we are prioritizing the right things. But this is primarily an operational role.
Do you envision any legislative changes as far as the roles and responsibilities of commissioners as a result of this newly created position that would be necessary?
So it's something that we're going to take, that's why, to Mark's point, we're going to go slowly through this to make sure that we have the right design and that we're properly thinking through the second, third order consequences that may come up with doing something like this. But I know the governor-elect is a firm believer you design from the top down, and we're going to lead that from the office of the governor and through general counsel, make sure that if we are making any changes or second, third order consequences to that, that we do that thoughtfully and right.
Whether it's in the private sector or in government, trying to make computer systems talk to each other or work effectively, it's been kind of a nightmare. I mean, goes back to the Roland administration, it was an effort when Governor Boyd came in, DSS, the idea was trying to modernize that. So what kind of feedback did you all get from the commissioners as to how you might approach that, how ambitious you should or shouldn't be in trying to overhaul the state's computer system?
I will say the best way to answer that question is twofold. One, there's institutional knowledge. That's what I bring as someone who's been in the thick of it, not only as a senior staffer for a governor, but also someone who served on a fiscal commission that really looked further into these related aspects. And I think secondfold is the work that the transition team has been doing in meeting with the current commissioners, really getting candid comments and freewheeling comments about how best to create a government moving forward. We're going to take those comments, we're going to take the institutional knowledge and bring forth a government that can work for the 21st century. I think first and foremost, you need people that can work together. And that's the one thing that this role will ensure, that we will have commissioners that will work together, understanding the mission and the strategy coming from the top and driving it through to our agencies. Then we'll get the technology to work in hand. But I think key foremost, we need the people to work together, and by creating this role, we're going to make a focus on the people.
Also, to understand, just so I understand you correctly, all the commissioners will go through Paul? In other words,
Yes.
DOT, DSS, everybody, plus any of the outside agencies? In other words, chief, if somebody's got a question or something, they go through Paul first?
That's right.
Okay.
Great.
And no one goes directly to Ryan? In other words, public safety, I'm just making this up. There's not some designated agency that's definitely going through you. It goes through Paul first, then it comes through.
That's the design. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the design, Chris, but look, my operating style is I reach out to people all the time. That's what I did in my company. That's what I do here. I like to get those direct relationships. So we're top down, we're organized, but also I'm going to keep that close relationship with as many people as I can. Sometimes I'll surprise them. That's what I like to do. And, in past, I just look at, other companies. I see where they spend, 6, 7, 8% of their total spend is on IT. Connecticut, it's about 1%. What we're going to do slowly, we're going to do it methodically, but it gives you an idea of where we want to go, where we want to be in the next 10 years as a state government. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.